game in San Antonio.
There's going to be a lot of stats like that.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith. I'm Molly Karen Rose and Stephen A. You said it. James Harden, 30, 15, and 14, 0 turnovers. That's never happened. And Zion Williamson, 26, 10, and 5, putting on a show. Let's dive right into it. Mr. Smith, you're up first. More impressive night. Would you go with Harden or Zion?
I'm going to go with Harden. And the reason why I'm going to go with Harden, believe it or not, is not just the fact that it was the fact that he did not commit one single turnover. I want to repeat that. James Harden finished the night with 30 points, 15 assists, 14 rebounds in 44 minutes played on 52% shooting from the field, 43% shooting from three-point range, and did not commit a single turnover. Just think about that for a second. Not a single turnover. This man right here is playing at an MVP caliber level. And then when we look at the evidence and we see, unfortunately, my brother Stephen Silas struggling in Houston as a rookie head coach, first time he's ever been a head coach after 20 years as an assistant. This guy, Stephen Silas, and the Houston Rockets have lost 12 straight. They're one of the worst teams in basketball at this particular moment in time. And obviously that has a lot to do with the fact that James Harden is no longer wearing a Houston Rockets uniform. But then you see him go to Brooklyn. Kyrie's gone, no problem. KD's gone, no problem. Still in all, James Harden, even though Kyrie played last night, shows up against the San Antonio Spurs team. They're still a playoff team. They're not a scrub team. And this brother plays 44 minutes, drops a 30-point triple-double, shoots better than 50% from the field, better than 40% from three-point range, and doesn't commit one single turnover. It doesn't get closer to perfect than that. Zion's a stud, but he wasn't perfect. James Harden last night was pretty close to perfect. That's why I say more impressive night was for Harden.
James Harden's better than Zion Williamson. He had a better night last night than Zion Williamson. And I'll even go you one better, Stephen A. For the first time in James Harden's career, through the MVP, through the near MVPs, through everything he's ever done, averaging 30 whatever points and everything, for the first time in his career, I get the feeling like I might be watching the best player in basketball when I watch Harden. I've never felt that way before. He's got he's got that glow. He's got the Last Dragon glow right now, Stephen A. He's playing at a whole different level.
And there's no show enough to stop him.
That's right. Show enough. Yeah, that's right. He's more like Bruce Leroy right now. Look, he's amazing. But I was more impressed by Zion last night. And I was more impressed by Zion last night because he's a 20-year-old kid. He is man strong and big and all that stuff and has real maturity beyond his years. But most people who are 20 are not done with college yet. He is a 20-year-old kid doing that in the NBA. And what exactly did he do? Last night, against the best team in basketball this year so far, who's been crushing everybody, right? What happens? The Jazz are up. You're coming into the second half. They already got the lead, and now comes the avalanche. All the open shooters. It's over. And what I saw was a team led by Zion Williamson imposing their will on the Jazz. Not the Jazz or the Avalanche, but Zion Williamson is more physically the manifestation of an actual avalanche. And in this NBA, Stephen A., where it's hard to be like a kind of Shaq-like physical presence and just impose that, he did it to the Utah Jazz and led his team. And I gotta tip my cap to Stan Van Gundy because Zion Williamson is playing point forward. And so I just brought up the fact that he can muscle his way inside, but he is not only a willing passer, he has real court vision. And the fact that Van Gundy has given him the freedom to grab the rebound, run the floor, make a play, he's doing it. So for a 20-year-old kid built like Zion, right, to be able to do that in this modern NBA to the Utah Jazz is, to me, the most impressive thing I saw in the NBA last night, and that includes James Harden.
Well, I understand where you're coming from because Zion Williamson had a big night. Obviously, it was against the Utah Jazz. And what I'm most impressed by watching him is his quickness. He's really quick. I mean, he's got that first step. He's got some speed, but he's also got some quickness, some acceleration. And when you look at it from that perspective, and then you consider the power, the strength, just the mass of this young man, the sky's the limit for him as long as he can stay healthy. And God help anybody if he plays, with a little bit more ambidextrous skills, where he uses both hands instead of just his left. God help everybody once that happens, if he stays healthy, because he's definitely got the heart. He ain't scared of anything. He's scaring everybody else. He's incredibly impressive, no doubt about it. And it's also hurting Ja Morant from the standpoint that we know that Ja Morant can ball. We're proud of the fact that he's Rookie of the Year. But every time you see Zion, you recognize that if Zion had been healthy, Ja Morant would not have been Rookie of the Year. That's pretty easy to surmise. But in the end, still in all, when you look at the Utah Jazz, with the top shooting three-point team in the league, they shot 17 of 43 from three-point range last night. You look at Mike Conley Jr., didn't have that good of a night. Look at Donovan Mitchell. He shot 7 of 21 from the field. He didn't have that good of a night. So it wasn't really their night. And you got to give New Orleans credit, because their defense has been horrid, and they've been trying to improve upon that. And last night, they prioritized that to some degree. So Stan Van Gundy deserves a lot of credit in that regard as well, because we all know the man can coach. But in the end, still in all, I don't think that compares to Harden. 30, 15, 14, on 50% shooting from the field, 42% shooting from three-point range, 44 minutes played, and not one single turnover in 44 minutes.
Harden had a better night.
Point guard. I can't ignore that.
Harden had the better night, and I think the strongest part of your argument is the no turnovers. Like, for a guy to have to play 44 minutes, to be the primary ball handler, to orchestrate the offense, to have a triple-double with 30-something points, and not to turn the ball over is extremely impressive. We're talking about two very impressive performances last night. Zion Williamson was taking it to Rudy Gobert. He was taking it to Rudy Gobert. There was nothing anyone could do. That's the number one guy you'd want probably in the league, in the paint, to try to stop him. There was no stopping him. You talk about Zion's quickness, and you could talk about him off the dribble, and he has better handles than given credit for, and he has enough wiggle in his game to be successful at this level as a wide body. What about his quickness to grab the board off his own misses? I'm trying to think. I think it's the quickest I've ever seen. In other words, a guy goes up in the paint, he puts the ball up, he doesn't get it to go. Zion gets back up off the floor faster than anyone I've ever seen, and does it with crazy hops. He was, considering the team they played, considering his age, considering his responsibilities in the offense now, considering the way the game was going and the momentum and what felt like the inevitable. The Jazz are always the ones who make the halftime adjustments, and then here it comes. And they were already winning in the game. By the way, I didn't mention this. Considering this is a Zion Williamson-led team, and the Jazz did come back. Of course they eventually surged back, and the Pelicans held them off in a night of amazing performances, both by Zion and Harden. I was most impressed. Not arguing it was the best performance. I was most impressed by the 20-year-old, Zion Williamson.
Last time I checked, when we asked what was more impressive, you're talking about what was the better performance, and you've already conceded that James Harden, which means you're just talking because you want to hear your voice. You want to hear your own voice. You already know I'm right. You already know I'm right. You know I'm right. Just
more impressive.
It's okay, Max. It's all right to just look at the camera and say, Stephen A.